Hi, welcome to another Fajardo Friday Life Lesson. I had a few years ago, and I apologize to you. I had somebody when I was asking about what kinds of lessons do you want me to talk about, things like that, and somebody had said that tell us about how to work with people that you don't like. And the thing is, that was a really hard question, and I really had to sit and think about it. And yes, I really did have to think about it for this long, mainly because it's not an easy question to answer because there's so many different type of people that you work with. I've always told people, or my communication arts kids, you need to know who you're working with because um, or you need to know things about the person that you're working with to have the best possible working relationship. So I can't answer this question like completely in this one video. I'm just going to do a little series over it. But there are types of workers that you need to keep in mind. The first worker I'm going to talk about are the ones who are the way they are. In other words, they can't, I hate to use the word like they can't help how they are, but maybe your dislike of people might have to do with the fact that it's misguided. Okay. Working with people that you misunderstand and you don't realize they are who they are because they just are that way. And so we need to be more accepting of people who can't help the way that they are. So for an example, when I'm talking to my communication arts class, I tell them I'm not looking for pity when I am telling you this about myself. You just need to know how to work with me, and I need to know how to work with you. But the best thing to do is that we have an understanding of each other up front. So I will tell them, yes, I have bipolar borderline personality disorder. It is what it is. I can't change that fact. Since that is the case, here's what you need to know about me. Now, some people they're like, oh, we're not supposed to talk about that kind of stuff. In interviews, that's kind of the key. Like you don't necessarily tell people about that stuff. And people worry about maybe losing their job or whatever. I mean, it's your own personal view. Just understand that you want to be able to have a good working relationship. So it's good for people to understand who you are and why the way you are. So I tell my ComArt students that I'm good. I mean, bipolar doesn't mean that I'm not functioning. I function just fine. If you haven't noticed, I'm doing great. I've gotten coping skills. There are just some things that you need to understand about me. So there are things that can trigger me in a bipolar situation. One of those things happens to be when people don't do what they're supposed to be doing, or they're talking when I'm trying to talk, or like they keep asking me over and over and over what, for example, like what an assignment is, and I'm just kind of like, okay, I understand that there are different types of learners out there, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, but I've solved this because I literally said what it is we need to do. I've provided a visual planner that literally outlines what it is we're doing, even videos. So in case you're absent, I provide both the auditory and visual. And then I also like physically show people how to do things and do videos where they can see how to do them, and then they can watch that video later in case they miss something as part of the instruction. I mean, I really go above and beyond to try to do certain things. And when I'm not met halfway, or I get people who just obviously weren't listening, that's the kind of stuff that can trigger me. That's logical. That's livable. And I'm not telling my students to be okay with things. If I get upset for a specific reason. They just need to know that, I might get upset. Who wouldn't get upset though? There's also sadness. I have to deal with certain things, but I do tell them like most of the time I'm really good about it. It's not going to be an issue. It hasn't been in all the time that I've been teaching and all throughout my life. Um, because I do the right things that I need to do. But anyway, you identify these things with people and then they're like, okay. And here's the thing. The truth is, if I tell you something like that, okay, this is where how do you work with people that you dislike or you just struggle with? If I have told you about me and how I am, and then you blatantly do the opposite of what I'm saying, despite the fact that I've told you these things, then it's quite possible I'm not the problem here. Maybe you are looking at it from like, oh, I can't work with this person. Well, maybe you can't work with this person because you refuse to adapt to that person. So when you talk about how do you handle people that you don't get along with at work, maybe you need to stop and think about what kind of person they are. and if you are doing the kinds of things that you need to do to be able to work with them. I've had students who they were like, I can't be a partner with a student. And, I'm using this just as an example, okay? There was a case where there was a kid who was very obviously special needs, and this kid didn't like them, and there was some fun that was being made of them. And so, what I did was I took them aside. I'm like, do you realize that this person cannot help the way that they are? And you're intentionally choosing to act the way that you're acting because this person doesn't have the capability of being anything else. Now, take that again for what it's worth. And hopefully that helps you understand at least one kind of person that might be difficult to work with. But always keep in mind that people in those situations, you really shouldn't be blaming them, okay? Because blame is not helpful to somebody who cannot help who they are. Thanks for listening.